Good evening, guys. My name is Ali, and I'm going to explain you about filters. So, how we can handle the error handler filters. Today, we are going to learn it. Okay. So, basically, we know that whenever we execute a particular application, we can get some errors. Like that errors, what they do is they will throw particular exceptions, and due to that particular exception, we will going to see some yellow pages on our particular screen, isn't it? So these are the things which can going to be happen whenever we write a particular code. So let's suppose I have a particular controller here, home controller, which is I have it, and here I'm going to create one variable, and this particular variable, let me have a particular ID with it. Okay. So now what I want to do is I just want to uh, create like I want to take this particular ID in one variable. So let me take one integer, and I just want to say that this is an employee ID, which I'm going to take it. And as I know that the string value which I'm taking from my particular query string from my parameter, so I need to convert into the int32, and then yeah, so we can take this one and we can pass our ID here. Yes, fine. So and I just want to display that particular ID through a viewback. So viewback dot employee ID, and that employee ID I just want to what I'm getting from my URL, I'm going to assign it. So for that purpose, we will create a view also, guys. So let's have a view here, and we'll have a add page. So in our home folder, we'll have this one. Let's do somewhat fast, and let's place this one here, and we will keep at the rate here so that we can display the employee whichever I'm getting it. Okay. So now we will execute this particular code. Yeah. So it's executing now. Sorry for making you delay here, but at initially it will take some of the time to execute it. So now we can see this. I got a particular controller, a home controller, and it's expecting some like ID here. So that ID we have to display on a particular page. So by default, it's going to call home index method, and he will not get something like ID, so it just display something like 0 for me as a default. So you can see this like it's processing here. Yeah, guys. Now you can see this. You got something like a 0 here. Now what I will do is I will just pass something like some 1 to 3, some ID. You can see this. You got 1 to 3. Great. So again, what I will do is I will just take one breakpoint here, and instead of passing something like 1 to 3, I'm going to pass some letters here. Okay, something. And you can see this in a string variable, it's going to be called very easily. But as we move forward, we are converting the employee into the integer, so we are getting some error like format exception errors. So when you see that, at that time, what you'll get is this is a thing which will get it like a runtime error, and this is showing that some error has been occurred, and the custom error is something like remote only. And if you want that some error page you want to redirect it, you can go for in your web config file, you have to write custom error modes on and default redirect from my customer page.html. So these are the things which is going to be show us. But telling you frankly, like when any error occurs in a web page, um, being you are a customer of any page, means if you go to any page and if you open and you find that some pages throwing an error to you, and or if it is throwing error and if it's showing this type of pages, you feel very bad, isn't it? So, and when you develop your application, and if your application is used by another person and getting this type of errors, how that person can feel it? So at this time, when error occurred, this is a great problem, guys. This is a big problem again. Why big problem? Because the customer will not come again to your particular website, and he doesn't like this type of things. So this type of error we need to handle it. How we can handle it? Like whenever any error occurred, we want to say that this particular error, uh, like something went wrong. That instead of showing the yellow page, we can create a one page there, and we can say that this is some error has been occurred. So we will get back to you soon. Like that, I want to display some message in my particular page itself instead of showing the yellow message, which is not readable by the normal customers. So for that purpose, what I'm going to do is here I'm going to take, as we know that like we can take try and catch exception, isn't it? So try, I'm taking this particular try block, and in this try block, what I'm going to do is I just want Control X. I think that this is a particular code which can create a problem for me. So I'm just keeping that particular code in a try block. And here I'm taking a catch block here. So this particular catch block will have a class called as exception class, which I'm going to take it, and the EX, which I'm got it. Okay. So you just take this one, like, yeah. Now, if this particular, if I'm not getting any error, what I would just want to do is something like I'm just going to, yeah, let it be here itself. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the particular view, which the view I'm getting it. Else, I will throw a particular exception. So throw, you're going to take new, and you're going to take exception. And here you just pass ex dot message. Okay. You can pass some ex dot message. What are the message you're going to display that? Okay. So now the message which you're going to send it, like this particular message, if you want to send it, you can send it there. Or if you doesn't want to send this particular message, if you want to show a customized error message, you can send that one also. So I just say something like, okay, this is a ex dot message which I'm going to send it, and but right now, is it fine like when I write this particular try block, and if I say this one, whether something will happen for me? Whether something will happen means a lot of people say that in the C# code we'll have a try catch block. They are enough for handling our exception. But do you think that in our ASP.NET like if you write try catch block and if you just throw an exception whenever it's coming, so that's going to be enough for us? Yeah. So I'm just going to close this one, and yeah. Once again, I put it on this particular URL, hitting that on URL. And again, you know that we are going to come here. That definitely we are going to come here. So we came here, and yeah. Yeah, it's set it now. So it's going to go to the particular code, employee ID. We null, this time null we are getting it. So it's going to exception for us. Input string got not in correct format. And it's going to return a view. But now what you're seeing, guys, yeah, this is something like, which again, same error. It's mean that our exception handler is not enough to handle this type of things. So for that purpose, again, we are getting the yellow page, but does we want this particular page for us? Does we want this particular page for us? No, we doesn't want it. Instead of what, I want to have a particular different page where whenever any exception occur for me. So for that purpose, what you need to do is you need to write one attribute called as ht error. That's something called handle error class you have to write it. And here what you have to do is you just have to go to the shared folder, and you have to create one error view page. So I'm just going to create a add view here. So let's write error error. So one page I called. So I'm going to say So something went wrong. So I just want to say this particular message. That's it. I don't want to make it some more explanatory here. So just write it something like throw new exception, or I'm just going to say throw. That's it. Which I just want to say. Like whenever any exception, I just want to throw it. Okay. So that simple thing which I wanted to write. Okay. So apart from creating an error.html, you have to create this file in the shared folder so that any error occurred. So like it should look for the shared folder. Why? Because shared folder we keep it. We keep the files where we think that that error can be means the files are which can be globally used for all the controllers or different types of action methods. Then we can keep that file in the error dot in the shared folder. So that's something what I kept error.html file here. Now go to the web config file. You can see this. There is the web config file which is present here also and here also. So your application later web config file, you go ahead and you just add this one custom error mode on. So why you have to add this? Because you want to show the error message, something like the error message whatever you're getting it. So such type of the particular file whatever you have, you want to display on your particular machine, means on your particular uh, server machine. So right now this is something like your server and this is also your client also, isn't it? So if I say mode on means it's going to display a message, error message on a particular script. So you just execute it now and you just see that how you are going to get the error page. So whenever any error occurs. So in this way, we are going to handle some errors. Means this is how handle attribute will work for us. So handle attribute in our MVC is a particular attribute. So this particular attribute, what is that? Whenever any exception occurred. So that type of exceptions. So let's see that like that type of exceptions. Yeah, we'll have it. Handle attribute. Attribute. This is the attribute what we have it. So this particular attribute we can keep on a specific action method as well as we can also keep on a controller also. So I want to keep on a action method. Why? Because I want to handle this method error only. So I keep this one. But if I want that, there are a lot of methods in my class. If I want that it should be handled for all that particular classes, then you have to keep this handle attribute on the particular class home controller. Fine. Now you're going to do some errors. Great. So it's going to go to our action method definitely. So you can see this is going to come for us. Yeah, it came. And we are just saying that any error exception occurring, just handle it. So I click on continue here. So it's just running here right now, runtime error. Yeah, fine, now it came, sorry. WWR, and now we're just going for 10, view bag, exception occurred, throw. So now it's going to throw an exception, like input string was not in a correct format. So we just thrown that one. Now let's see that what we are going to get it right now. So this will come some page for us. The page which we have given like error.cshtml page. Okay. So let's continue this one. Yeah. And we will see that something went wrong. So this is good, like explaining something like in our page itself, some error pages we are creating and showing that one. That is a lot better. Showing that yellow dirty pages, isn't it? So that's why we need to handle this type of errors. So when the user doesn't find it, so he will say that, okay, this error, this page got some error. So some meaningful message we got it. So in this way we can explain them. Now, if you see that in a particular home controller, I'm just going to remove that point here. Now, if I have another method, suppose same method I'm going to copy it right now, Control C and Control V. So sorry for that. I'm just going to stop the debugging here. I'm going to paste it this one once again. So right now I'm going to do in index 1 same error, whatever I have it. So let's go to the add view here and just create one view itself, add. So you can see this some message you want to display, like index one, that's it. So yeah, some ID, if it means if it doesn't have any error means let's go to the particular page, or otherwise it's something like it's just going to give you some error, throwing the errors, isn't it? Now if you see that I'm having this handle attribute and I'm not having the handle attribute before this index one. So control shift build and control F5. So I'm just, yeah guys, now you can see it's like I resumed the recording because I don't want that my machine is taking a lot of time to execute it. So I just want that why to make you detail for all this particular video. So you can see this right now I have a this one error I'm doing, that's why I'm getting this something went wrong. So while you can see this index one is there, when I do for this one, now I'm getting this error. For index one I'm getting error because if you see that in a controller like index one, I'm throwing exception, but as I don't have a HTML error attribute. So HTML error attribute is a particular class, so which can be kept on your particular method and as well as on your class also, home controller class also, above also we can keep it. So I just go to the definition for it and we can see this handle error attributes are inherited from a filter attribute class, and exception filter means exception filter is a particular interface. So in this this is a exception filter that is required for handling your particular errors. Means basically like this handle attribute class, it could be anything. Means whatever attribute you want to create, you can create your own attribute name. It's not to something like tell you that you can have only handle attribute here. You can keep your name also and you can do it. But the thing is, these exception filters, if you see, just go to that definition and you will find that there is a method called as onException. So this particular interface will have a method called as onException method. So we are implementing that method, onException method, whenever any error occurring for us. So whenever any error occur, how it should know that something like error has been occurred and he has to display the particular page for us. So that will be known by this particular onException method class. So if you just see that, we'll have a particular onException method here. So this onException method, it's like a event, what you can say it. So this particular method will be invoked whenever any person do any exception or any error on their particular pages. So that we have implemented. So we can see this, we have a one constructor, we have a class here, and we can see that exception type and master view, all other things are available on this particular handle attribute here. Now we will discuss that one. Now what we got is like in our home controller we have type handle error class. So that's why whenever any error occurring, it's throwing exception. So automatically it go to the handle attribute class, and there something like go to that particular definition. So there we onException method is going to be executed, and you're going to find like any error, whatever the any error occurred. So which type of files that you can handle it, like error.html files. So this he will look for in a shared folder and he will display that particular page for us. So this is a predefined HTML helpers what we have, like HTML error attributes a predefined helper class what we have it. So this is a DLL file what we can say. So this all is like HTML error attribute class is inherited for my exception filter only. So now you can see this onException. What we got it like whether if I open this one, like you can see this some filter contacts, action filter contact exceptions, system argument exceptions. So what all this is called when an exception occurred. So what does it mean? Like when this is going to be called? It's going to be called whenever any exception occur for us. And where it is there on a handle error attribute. So exception context. If you go to the definition of it once again of it, so it's again coming from the controller context class, and again we'll have exception class for it. Again we have a action result class for it. So it's mean that this particular again, whenever any error occurring here on that particular class, it's again coming to this particular class, and it's just checking that what type of error exception occurred, and based on that, it's going to display messages also for us. But now just making you not bored in this particular session. So one thing I will do it, I will just make this particular thing. Like I got an error because I didn't keep my handle attribute here. So I will put handle attribute here. And now you can see this. Now if for any class wherever you are having something like attribute here, so it's going to be executed. Means in this particular controller class, I kept my handle error attribute. So whenever any error occurred, so that particular error is going to be handled. Means if any method in that particular class is doing some error, now it's going to be handled very easily for us. So let's just execute it, and until then it'll execute. I'm just pausing this video. So now you can see this. I just taken the same page what I have it, like index or index one. I'm just executing right now. So you can see this. I got a particular exception here. I'm just kept a particular breakpoint there, and yeah. Yeah, now you can see this. What we got is something went wrong. So it's mean that it came the error where in the index one, isn't it? It came the error in the index one, or if it is come the error in the index also. Index one we have kept. Now if it come the error on the index also, so it's going to get me the same page what I have it. Like this is something went wrong. So in this way, if I kept handle error attribute on where on my particular class, so now you can see this. I got this particular exception on which that is on the index method. Now I'm executing this one. So I'm going to get this particular page, not something like that yellow page. So in this way, I can show the pages whenever I'm getting some error pages, whenever I'm having some errors. Okay. Now, so now I'm going to stop the debugging here. But you can see here like this particular thing, like you put on a handle error attribute. But error can be occurred in various controller in your particular application. It can be occurred in the various controller in your particular application. So you cannot have only a home controller. So in each and every controller, do you have to write this handle error attribute? Yes, then you have to write it. But is there any way that globally I can define it and it will work for my all the controller without writing to each and every error handle error classes? So yeah, it's there. That is also there. Means what I'm telling that I have a handle error attribute here. If I don't write it here, and why I don't want to write it, because see, if I have a multiple controller, means again I have to write in multiple places. This one controls that I'm doing it. Multiple places I want to do it. But globally, I want to define like for all my controllers, whatever the controllers I have it. So for that purpose, what you need to do is you need to go to your particular file here. Like you have to go to a special class you have to create it, like custom error exception filter class you have to create it. So custom filter class, if you want to create it, you have to go to the app start folder. You have to go for app start, and here you need to create a simple class. So that particular class you need to write as a filter config class. Means I'm going to write a filter config class here for all of you. So filter config means for my application, if any error comes, this is that I'm globally defining it here. So this is going to handle exception for me. Okay. So now let me namespace. I'm going to have only this one, like filter to example. I don't want to keep any other text. Okay. Now, so for this particular things, I already wrote a particular class here so that our time will be very in less time we can complete all the things. So I don't want this one, and this one I don't want it. So I just created a filter config class. So this particular global, this for this particular error we are getting at here, isn't it? So if I don't want to get this particular error, so I just write error here, error attribute, and one namespace I have to write it using system dot web dot mbc, which I have added. Okay, so now you can see this, I'm not getting any error. We will discuss this one. Now you can see that register means you have to register in a filter config class. You have means this is a particular class, customized class. What if you have it? So whether you have an authorization filter, whether you have a handle error attribute, or you have something like output cache attribute. So globally, if you want to define it, you have to define under the filter config class only. So you're registering here in a method called as the register global filter method. So this is not a predefined method. It is a my own method which I've created here. Register global filter here. So this register global filter, it's going to define means it's going to have a parameter as a global filter collection class. So this global filter collection class is a predefined class that represent a global filters for us. So we can use this class object and we can add a particular method, and whatever our filters are there. Like in our MVC, we have different types of filters. Like in last class, we have seen that means error, handle error attribute, authorize attribute. We'll have output caching attribute. So this are all as a predefined helpers. Predefined filters. What we have it. So now what I'm doing is globally I'm registering here this handle attribute. So whenever any error occurred, so if I globally keep it here means I doesn't have to put on my particular controllers like the controller which I have right now. So let me go for a home controller which I define here. I don't need it. So whenever any error occurred, my global file is going to be called. That's not going to filter config class is going to be as I defined here. So this is going to handle my errors. Okay. Now you can see here, apart from creating a class, it's not enough. Whenever you execute a particular application, there is a file called as global.asx file. And here we have to call that particular filter config class, whatever we have just now created. Okay. So for calling this one, what I need to do is I need to use filter. What is the name of that filter config? So I'm just going to call a filter config class. So there I'm going to call a method called as register global filters, which I'm going to call it. Okay. So this is what a class, and this is what my method which I have it. Now you can see this like in my filter config class which I've created. I have a method called as register global filter, and it also has some parameter like global filters, collection filters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass some parameter here. So what parameter I need to pass is like same parameter like global filters. So global filters is nothing but represent global filters collection. So whatever the filters, either something like authorized filters or either my exception filter. So all of them is going to be handled by my global filter class. So if I take global filter collections, you can see that this is also same thing like represent a class that contain all global filters. And again, I can take something like this one, like represent the global filter collection. So this is a collection and this is only one, which I have it. So just I'm taking this one global filter for right now. And there I want to take a filter. So filter means whatever the filter I'm going to set, like error or output cache or any other type of filters, I can read that one. I can pass it from here and I can do it. So which means that whenever any error occurred, it's go to this particular filter config class, and there whatever the error means whenever your application start. So all this like your area register, your route config, and your filter config, it's going to be uh, executed for us. So this is something like I want to register my global filter. So what is the global filter I have it? I want to uh, just go to the particular definition here, and I have register handle error attribute. So whenever any exception occurred, means I already defined in my particular filter config class, this I have registered here, like this one. So this is going to handle my all that exception, whatever I'm getting it. So now you just go and execute this particular error. So I'm just going to stop this. Okay, guys. So this was the last page which you find. So I'm just going to click it here. So of course, that's going to go to our particular home controller. Index one is going to call it, and the ID we will get it. So with that particular ID, something like we are passing as WER. So it's going to throw an exception for us. So now I didn't wrote any handle error attribute. So whether it's going to throw me an exception, whether the throw exception will bring me a yellow page, or will it bring me something like my own page which I have defined as a error.syshtml page. So when I executed this one, so what page I will get it now? So yeah, so taking some time. Guys, you can see this, you got something went wrong. So this is now, if any means any controller, wherever I am getting an error, now I can handle it without specifying here. How I can handle it? By registering my particular HTML attribute filter globally. Globally means in your global.asx file. So whenever your application started, this method is going to be called, it's going to be executed for us. So when this registered global filter is going to be executed, definitely it's going to call something like this register global filter, and this filter is added for me. So now for this whole this application, this handle error attributes is added, filter is added. So whenever any exception occurred, this handle error attribute is going to be called, and there we are going to handle that errors. Okay, so this is how what we are going to handle our exceptions. Okay, now it's the video is too long, so I'm just going to stop it here, and uh, I'm going to add some more about HandleError exception in next video. I will see that one again. Bye then, guys. Thank you.